I was planning my launch party, invited about 100 people that I wanted there as potential clients. And it's the day of my launch party. I'm on a high. I'm so excited. I'm like trying to think of how many clients I'm going to book tonight, all that goes into, excitement being on 100. And it went the exact opposite. And I can't even say that I even thought of this as a potential avenue of how the night would go. But no one showed up.
Welcome back to Fearless Narrative, a show that's all about the incredible stories of women who are changing the game, breaking the rules, and pushing through the boundaries to face their fears head on because they are fearless entrepreneurs and creatives, and we love to see it. I am your host, Courtlyn Jones, and on our show, we go into a deep dive into captivating storytelling and engaging conversations with these incredible women as they share how they are pursuing their passions and shattering glass ceilings along the way. We love that so much. It's so inspiring and so empowering to share these stories with you. And hopefully it will empower you to embrace your own fearless path. Our show is all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway, as well as women supporting women. We love that. We need more of that always. So before we get started, don't forget to hit the button to subscribe to our show. We also would love a nice 5-star review at the end. Without further ado, let's go into a new episode right now. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to Fearless Narratives. I am your host, Courtlyn Jones, and joining us today is the visionary founder of HerHeadquarters, Carina Glover. Carina's journey is a testament to resilience, innovation, and the indomitable spirit of entrepreneurship. In 2019, Carina founded HerHeadquarters, a platform that opens doors for women-owned companies, connecting them to dream projects, collaborators, and a vibrant community. Her advocacy for women-owned businesses is unwavering, from prospering initiatives to Congress, to launching business grants through HerHeadquarters, hosting workshops, conferences, and so much more. Get ready for an episode that celebrates entrepreneurship, empowerment, and the journey of Carina Glover. Hi, Carina. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
My pleasure. Carina, your journey from adversity to advocacy is truly inspiring. Can you share the moments that led you to found HerHeadquarters and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, that's actually such a long story because this year, or right now, this conversation is happening fall 2023. This marks 10 years of entrepreneurship for me. So while HerHeadquarters is only 4, my journey with entrepreneurship actually started in 2013. And that night so the night that I'm referencing, my very first business I started was an event planning business. Fall of 2013, I was a stereotypical broke college student with big dreams and wanting to launch a super successful event planning business. And I was planning my launch party, invited about 100 people that I wanted there as potential clients. And it's the day of my launch party. I'm on a high. I'm so excited. I'm like trying to think of how many clients I'm going to book tonight, all that goes into, excitement being on 100. And it went the exact opposite. And I can't even say that I even thought of this as a potential avenue of how the night would go. But no one showed up. I paid for all this food and gift bags and drinks, and about an hour in, and you know what makes it worse? The venue that I rented out was in a plaza. And so I kept seeing cars pull up, and I'm like, oh my God, this is my first guest. They're here for me. And then they would go next door. And then it happened again. I'm like, oh my God, that's got to be them. And then they would go next door. So about 45 minutes to an hour in, I realized like nobody's coming. And that felt like such a gut punch. My boyfriend, now husband, was there with me. He helped me set up. But I was devastated. I was embarrassed. I remember going to the bathroom and locking the door, and I just started bawling. And I think he knew before I knew, but he was just trying to be like supportive. And I just remember the sound of him picking the lock, like, Karina, open the door. Karina, open the door. And I was just devastated. And that honestly planted the seed for what became HerHeadquarters. And the reason why I say that is because I'm really big on kind of analyzing after any major win or any major failure, what did I do to contribute to that success? Or what did I do to contribute to that failure? And I've always had that in me. So weeks later, when I was like really able, when I had the space to like kind of process and have that conversation with myself, like, yo, baby girl, where in the hell did you go wrong? There was a long list of things. I mean, I was Ricky 101, right? But one of the things I did wrong was that I didn't see the value in collaboration. I didn't see the value in having partners. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. And so many women heard, oh, I'm starting this event planning business. I would love to work with you. I would love to collaborate with you on your launch party. We offer this service, or, my expertise is this. And I had this really detrimental mindset that if you're good at something, you can do it by yourself. And so I was afraid of what a potential client would think about me. It's like, well, if you need to partner with this business and that business to pull off your launch party, maybe I need to go work with them. And so I thought I was doing something that would set me up for success when really it was fast tracking me to my first failure on my very first day. I stuck with that business for about 3, 4 years ish. It eventually took off. I ended up working with the Grammys and the NFL Honors Awards, but I hated it. Like I became so good. I know it's crazy. Like I became so good at event planning that I could do it in my sleep, but I no longer enjoyed it. And I hit this point where I was at events that were going pretty well. And in the event planning world, like something's always happening. That's very rare that they go seamlessly perfect. And I remember being at events like, I can't wait to go home. I can't wait till this is over. And that made me realize like you can be good at something and still not be walking in alignment with your calling and your purpose. So I left California. I went back home, and I remember I was just praying, like asking God to guide me because I'm clearly off track. What am I supposed to be doing? And that night of that launch party in the bathroom floor kept coming back to me. And it was almost like a question was planted in my heart. And it was, what would have contributed to your success? And then what would have made it easier for you to find the partners that you needed to contribute to that success? And I have a great Wi-Fi signal. I can see you beautifully, very clearly. After I got done praying, the vision of HerHeadquarters came to me clear as day, clearly. And I was so excited. Granted, I didn't know what I was doing, right? Because I'm an event planner who went to school for PR and marketing. I don't know nothing about tech. I don't know nothing about coding anything, right? But I knew I was excited to explore what I was supposed to do. So the next day I shut my website down. I finished my contract with my event planning business, and I want to say 6 months later, I ended up getting accepted into a small accelerator program for tech founders, and the rest is history. Long story, but
that was a great story, though.
Yeah, it started back in 2013, girl. So I say there's no such thing as an overnight success. Like my first day as an entrepreneur, my very first attempt in the round, I got knocked out, and that hurt.
But you have done so much greatness since then, and I'm so proud of you for that, because I would be crying on the floor too. Like that was really hard for me to even hear. I can't imagine like going through that. That's tough. And you
I
did.
was so embarrassed. My parents at the time lived in Seattle. They were so excited for me. They're proud of me. I'm the oldest of three, and then they kept saying, make sure you call me after the party. Like, make sure you call me, tell me how it went. And everyone, like when I finally like loaded up my car with all the gift bags, all this food, all this wine, everything, loaded my car up, and I'm like crying on the way home. My phone keeps pinging, and I'm looking at my phone, and it's my friends and my family like, hey, big shot, how many clients did you get? How many people showed up? Like, I know you're doing it big, Beyonce. Like, they don't even know. Like, yo, nobody came. I had to email my parents because I wasn't ready to even say it out loud. And so I emailed them what happened.
Wow. That's I can't. I have no words to even go say with that. But
Yeah.
damn.
Like low key, it still hurt my feelings. Like I wish I could remember who was on the guest list. Because I don't hold grudges, but that's a grudge. I'm like, yo, you was my first business devastation. Like that still stings when I think about it. To this day, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful seed that planted into a lot of wisdom. But dang, that was messed up. You could have just paid for the appetizers at the very least. Like,
Seriously,
come on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I can't. That's a hard blow. I'm so sorry if that happened to you.
It's okay. It happened for me.
Exactly, have been for you. That's an
Yeah.
awesome way to frame that. Okay, so her headquarters empowers women-owned companies. Can you delve into the community building efforts that have amplified their voices and dreams?
Yeah. So my love language is catering to serving women-owned businesses and removing their barriers. When her headquarters started in 2019, we actually started as an app that made it easier for women-owned businesses to find their dream collaborators in their dream projects. So they go to her headquarters and they would post, "Hey, I have this grand opening for a new location coming up," or "We have this fashion show coming up for a new collection," or "We're getting ready to launch this and we need a woman-owned business that can provide this service," whether it be PR or event planning or graphic design, website, whatever it is. So it's essentially like a platform that allows women-owned businesses to connect with each other, to work together and make money together. Over the years, or at least over the past year, it's really expanded. I've really been thinking about like our future as a company and not wanting her headquarters to just be an app. And when I started to really kind of do some deep inventory on like what are their biggest challenges and what opportunities are they looking for access to, that really allowed me to like think long term about our company and expand it to not just being an app. And there's nothing wrong with it being an app, but just I wanted to be a company that had a, a a long-term generational impact and not just serving the women entrepreneurs of today. And what does that look like? And so our big mission is to increase the amount of spend that women-owned businesses get by 15% over the next 10 years. And there's two ways that we do that. Well, three ways. One is our app that's been around, since the beginning. But we just recently launched our woman-owned business certification program and our corporate services. So those are two things I'm really excited about. Traditionally, when you look at other programs that have been around for years, their woman-owned business certification it feels like a form of redlining, especially for women who have limited resources, whether that be time or money or they're solo founders. Other programs, they charge up to $1,200+ to get certified. And they require you to have 20, 25 plus documents. And some of those documents you need an accountant and a lawyer to get those documents to apply for certification. And it's like, don't we have enough barriers against us?
Right.
And so, yeah. And so I was like, well, how do we find a way to create a credible certification option that is also entrepreneur friendly and also friendly to entrepreneurs that have limited resources? And so we found our middle ground after months of research and interviews and focus groups. And our certification is only $300 compared to other programs that charge up to $1,200. We only require 7 documents, so 2 forms of ID, an application, proof of business operations, business structure, a declaration of truth, basically a document saying like, I confirm that everything I provided is accurate, etc. So we found our way to remove that barrier, because a lot of companies or even the government, when they want to hire women-owned businesses for these different projects or supplier opportunities, one of the requirements is getting certified. So if you can't get over the mountain of certification, then that automatically means you don't have access to millions of dollars of contracts and opportunities out there. So I'm really proud to break down that barrier. And I know that, we're kind of putting a target on our back because some of the organizations that have been out there doing this, they're bigger than us. They have more manpower, but I'm like, you have to stay focused on who you're serving,
Right.
not focus on who's against you. And then our last way of supporting women-owned businesses is through corporate services. And this is another favorite of mine. So what that looks like is us working with corporations that say, hey, we want to hire women-owned businesses for our upcoming project, our upcoming event. We need them to meet requirements A, our budget is B, our timeline is C. And so we would either post on our platform or go out and recruit and find a woman-owned business that meets, let's just say, Victoria's Secret's requirements. Victoria's Secret says, hey, we're doing this pop-up in New York City. We want a woman-owned production company that can be in New York City, that can work with a $25,000 budget, and our requirements are A, B, and C. We go out and find them for Victoria's Secret. We recruit them, we vet them, and then we present them to our corporate client saying, hey, based off of your requirements, these are our top 5 woman-owned business vendors or suppliers that meet your requirements. Obviously, the businesses that are woman-owned, have our woman-owned business certification, they are presented over businesses who don't. So it's all really connected. So we're going from the corporate angle, the certification angle, and then our platform where they can connect with each other. And yeah, that's what
I
we're doing.
love all of that. I also saw on your Instagram recently that you gave something to Beyonce's publicist, right?
Yeah,
What
well,
was that?
yeah. So we launched our Woman Owned Business certification in September.
Mhm.
A week later, we were invited to Beyonce's Be Good organization luncheon. And that it was a luncheon that they were hosting in Houston. And so I was like, I've been wanting to partner with them. Be Good is really big on creating economic equality. And, they're really targeting different demographics that are underserved and disadvantaged. I'm like, well, that's exactly kind of what her headquarters is doing, but specifically for the demographic of women-owned businesses. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense for us to partner. And I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I don't want to just be a conversation and exchange business cards. I want this to be really memorable. And so my plan was to present Be Good an honorary woman-owned business certification plaque at the event. Fast forward, Beyonce's publicist, Yvette, is like, oh, that's what you got planned. The funny thing is, girl, I was actually planning to pull Miss Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mother. She is on the board of the organization. And then Ivy, the executive director of the organization working for Beyonce, I was planning to pull them aside and do it, in private. And Beyonce's publicist hear about it. And she's like, Boo Boo, you're going to go on stage.
I saw that.
And I was like, and listen, I was so nervous and it really taught me a lesson about taking up space unapologetically because I knew why I was doing it. I wanted to get their attention. I wanted to showcase to them the value of what we're doing, and introduce them to what we can do together, right? That was my entire goal of it. But I really wanted to do it in private on the side because I didn't want it to look like clout chasing. It's so easy to be accused of that nowadays. I wanted them to see the sincerity of it. And because it was such a sincere move with the goal of how can we impact women-owned businesses together, I wanted it to be something done on the side. And it was so crazy because even on the way to the events, on the way there, I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should just send an email and say, I had already ordered this customized plaque. Okay, it's in the car with me. And I'm like, maybe I should do this and maybe I should do that. So to be insistent, and don't get me wrong, Yvette was not pushy at all. I love her for even presenting the opportunity, but to have her say, no, this is amazing. I want you to get on stage and I want you to present it in a room full of 100 plus people with cameras and the board here.
I'm sweating.
And her mother, my heart dropped. When I say my mouth was open, baby, my mouth was open. And I said, on that stage? And she said, yeah, you'll be fine. And I said, oh, okay. Thank you. And that was really kind of she pushed me to take up space and she didn't even know that I was struggling with doing that. What I was trying to do in private, I was given the opportunity to do in public, and that opened up a lot of doors for us. And yeah, so I can say that Beyonce's Be Good Foundation was the very first to receive an honorary Her Headquarters Woman-Owned Business certification, and that's amazing. And I'm excited for the opportunity for us to work together in the future. And I think that planted a seed, and I think it's going to blossom into something that creates a lot more impact.
That's so amazing. I'm so, so proud. I don't even know you, but I was so happy to see that on Instagram. I was like, Carina's doing such great things. I'm so proud of her. Oh my God. That's amazing. And I know I can't imagine how scary that actually is because I personally hate being seen really because I have a lot of fear about all that. But for you to have to be pushed out there and to do such a great thing on stage in front of so many out there to see you and your greatness, that's an amazing opportunity. And I'm so happy you had the chance to do that.
Thank you.
How do you stay motivated in your efforts to advocate for change?
I've lost motivation multiple times during this journey. I'm not gonna lie. I think if I were I'm always motivated and I'm always encouraged and I always see the big picture, then I would be bold-faced lying to you and everyone listening. I've definitely had times where I wanted to give up. I've definitely had times where I was discouraged and thought that I would be 10 steps further than where I was at. But I will say during those times, I had a circle of people around me, whether it be investors or advisors or friends and family, who's like that remind me of where I started. And I think that for me, this is not the best thing, but I don't I celebrate things, but like, let's say there's a big accomplishment that happens, right? I'm excited for that and I celebrate that for 5 minutes. Okay, that's so great. Pat on the back, go you girl. And then what's next?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't allow myself to sit in the moment of my wins long enough. And so the disadvantage of that is that it means that I always feel like there's something else to do. There's always something else to do. And I don't take a long enough second to be like, but look at what you've done. And I think that I have people around me who are like, girl, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like they remind me of things that I forgot about. They'll remind me like, oh, Karina, but you have a whole freaking Forbes plaque, or Karina, you know, Beyonce's Be Good, and you did this and you did this, and that created this impact, and that created this impact. And I think that that helps me because I'm so focused on how much further I have to go to create the impact that I want to create, that I discredit myself a lot. You know, like sometimes like other people are looking at a rap sheet of accolades and awards and etc. And I'm like, and I'm looking at a sheet of like, dang, you still got to do this, you still got to do this, you still got to accomplish this. And so I think my perspective is not always grounded, and I have people around me that keeps me grounded. And I also have people that remind me that like if I wanted to quit, it's easy. One of my advisors, I was kind of telling her a few months ago, like, dang, I feel like this. And I was like in my feelings crying, you know, and a big old lump in my throat. And she was like, Karina, she said, you make it seem like it would be so hard for you. Because she was, I want you to walk me through what would it take if you were to quit today? Like what logistically, what would you do next if you decided I'm done with this company? I said, well, I would take our app down from the app store. I would send an email to all of our users. Hey, we're done. I would deactivate all of our social medias. I would email my investors, and I start looking for a job on Monday. She said, okay, that's not a crazy list. She said, you could do that in the next hour.
Mm-hmm.
She said, but you don't want to quit. She said, because you just mapped out how easy it would be to quit from a logistical standpoint. She said, but I want you to think about the work that you're doing, the impact you're going to have. There are people who are assigned, there are people who are going to be motivated to walk in their purpose because they see you walk in yours. There's doors that are going to be open for women owned businesses now and in the future because you have the courage to create the certification, because you have the courage to chase down these corporate accounts to present six-figure deals to these women owned businesses. And they can find their dream projects and collaborators because of your platform. But what happens to them if you quit? Because I'm not trying to put a heavy weight on you, but I want to remind you that the mission was bigger than you in the beginning, and it's bigger than you now.
Mm-hmm.
She said, because if you wanted to quit, you really could. She says, I want to know what's stopping you from quitting. And I was like, dang. And I think to myself, like, you forfeit the prize if you quit. You only get it if you keep going. And there are some days I don't keep going for the right reasons. I'll be honest. Some days I keep going for my users. Other days I keep going for my investors. Other days I keep going for my baby. Other days I keep going out of resentment. Like I'll be damned if I put in all this work and not get nothing out of it. I can get my
Yep.
time back. I can get my money back. I just got all this stress, and then I walked away with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be damned if I do that. So I'll be honest with you. Some days I'm motivated by different things. It just depends on the day and the headspace that I'm in. And sometimes I can encourage myself, and some days I am empty and I need the people around me to lift me up.
That was a great answer. I totally understand all of that, and I saw online recently that somebody, I think it was a few days ago actually, someone who ran the marathon in New York City. She was saying how she could never understand how someone could see the end, like see the finish line, and they want to quit when it's so close. And then
Yeah.
she was saying how running the actual marathon was her first time of ever understanding those who quit at the end because it's just that hard. And that was like such a powerful moment for me to hear and for her to experience, because that's kind of how I feel we all feel as entrepreneurs. Like we're always like fighting so hard, and it gets harder and harder every day or every week or so. And we can be so close to getting our dream, or to, getting to a goal of ours. And because it's so hard, it can be so easy to quit and be like, you know what, I'm done. This is too hard, whatever. When you're so close. And it always feels like when it's always hardest when you're probably at the end, when you're like really close to achieving whatever you're trying to get to. But I
Right.
feel like that grit and that amount of uh motivation has to come from within you, has to come from your closest circle, if anything, but mostly it has to come from inside of you, because you're the only one, who's gonna push you to the end of that line.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me, like, if you're thinking about a sport, rather there's, 12 rounds in the game. Let's just say there's 12 rounds in the game, right? And the first round, very beginning, you have the highest optimism,
Mm-hmm.
you have the highest amount of patience, you have the,
Energy.
right, the highest amount of energy. By round four, okay, it's not the same amount, but you still have it. By
Mm-hmm.
round nine, right? If it's getting harder and harder because the things that you need are starting to get a little depleted, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't maybe you don't have as much patience, right? You're a little bit more worn out. You're a little bit more mentally and emotionally exhausted. And so that's why I think people one of the reasons why I think people quit is because they didn't have an opportunity to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kept going and going and going. And you think all I have to do is make it to the 12th round. I'm so close. I'm in the ninth round. But if you haven't had an opportunity to recharge, then now you're on fumes.
Mm-hmm.
And rounds 10, 11, and 12 are that much harder, which means you need more energy than you needed than the first.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really taught me the importance of like burnout. Preventing burnout is self-care. Sometimes we think that self-care is tending to burnout. Oh, clear your schedule, take some time off. No, no, no. The real self-care is preventative.
Hmm. Well
That's what I've learned.
said. Well said. Thank you. You have faced adversity, rejection, and financial challenges. How do you navigate these obstacles, and what kept you focused on your mission?
Yeah, listen, I love this question. I'm a visual person, right? And I remember there would be times where like I would be fundraising and I'm like talking to my 60th investor and they're like, "Oh, this sounds really great, but we're not going to invest." Or, I'm trying to secure a collaboration with some company and this is the fifth company that either didn't respond or, whatever it was. Rejection comes in many forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have this visual of I'm in a huge, huge, like maybe like auditorium, like maybe something the size of a football field, but it's indoors, right? And there's maybe 100, 150 doors around me. Behind one of those doors is the package that's for me, the opportunity that's for me, the people that's for me, the customers, the deal, right? Everything is like custom package. All them other doors, that's for Sally and John and Ebony and Keisha. Them ain't my doors.
Yeah.
But because I don't know that, because the door is not numbered and the door is not labeled, I have to knock on every single door. And
Mm.
in the beginning, I used to get so like I would take it so personal, and I back in the day, like the early like first few years of entrepreneurship when I had my event planning business. This is what 8 years, 9 years ago, like that I'm referencing. I would have a blacklist. So if someone didn't respond to me, if someone was rude to me, if they said no to me, I would have a list and I would write the name on it. So, and that on that list, that meant you can't never come to me for nothing. When I'm doing good, we can't work together. I'm not responding to your email. I'm not speaking at your event. That was, I mean, I feel that way still a little bit, but I've grown significantly since then, right? But I'm saying now rejection rolls off my back.
Yeah.
And now I have the perspective where if I knock on the door, whether it's for a partnership or an investment deal or whatever it is, if you say no, now I get excited because I'm thinking, okay, that wasn't my door. That was
Mm.
Ebony's door. That
Yeah.
was Courtlyn's door. You know what I mean? That was John's door. And
Mm-hmm.
if I've knocked on 40 doors and there's 150 doors here, that means I'm that much closer to finding my door.
Mm-hmm.
That's the visual that I have of me, like I said, in this huge room, and I just have to find the door that's mine. And so the more I knock, the closer I get to my yes. So that's the visual I have of myself in with rejection now. And I don't have a block list anymore either. See? Growth, baby.
I love that growth. That's funny because I actually do have one myself, but it's not for like company stuff. It's more like personal things. I have the longest block list ever of like um not really friends, but more like weird guys. So
Yeah.
I
Oh
have
yeah. You need those.
I have the
Yeah.
longest block list of like dudes that are just like creepy that have been blocked in my life.
Yeah.
But
Keep that list.
exactly, there will always be there will always be blocked. Okay, entrepreneurship is a dynamic journey. How do you balance innovation and adaptation while staying true to the core mission of her headquarters?
I some people agree that some people don't. I think that the people that are paying for your product or paying for your service will usually be the best people to listen to.
Mhm.
How much they're engaging with your product, right? How much you're coming back to buy your product. Um, that will determine, am I onto something? Do I need to change something? And then you also have to kind of like look at just the like the adaptation of what's happening in society, right? What's happening in culture. So it's partially like a balance of, I think it's an art of thinking about what direction are we moving into as a society, and what technology is looking like. At least that's something that I have to think about being in the tech industry. But then also like, what are my customers saying? And sometimes they don't always say it with their words. Sometimes they'll say it with their behavior. And so I have to find the balance between predicting what's next and then looking at what I can visibly see now through conversations and through data, and finding a way to blend and create, okay, this is what we need to do next as a product. So I'll give you, by the time this comes out, this will be live. Her headquarters has been an app since 2019. I'm sending an email later today or tomorrow to our users, letting them know that we're shutting down her headquarters app. And we are going to be switching to a desktop version. And I'm really, really excited about that. But I had to look at the engagement of our app. I had to look at the challenges that we face with dev teams, and how long it takes to fix a problem on tech, and how does it impact my users, and what are my users saying. And while we serve women-owned businesses, I think sometimes people hear that and they automatically think women entrepreneurs, but that means anyone on the team can use her headquarters, whether it's John, their operations manager, or Elizabeth, their executive assistant. And so when I think about people working in offices on the day to day, they are operating and doing business on their laptops and on their computers. And so I had to think about, how can I make our product more accessible to them? And how can I make our product more um, streamlined and easier, and make it so that we can quickly change things and it not take 4 months of development with the dev team because we have a custom coded app, for example. And so that's just an example of like blending the future with what I'm hearing now and trying to stay a step ahead. So
I love that. So just curious, is the new version that's going to be on the desktop, is it taking away from, is the app going away because the version on desktop works really well for mobile and
yep. So
okay.
desktop, yep. It's called web app, so it'll be responsive. So you can use it obviously, online, computer, etc. Or
Mhm.
you can use it open up, her headquarters app on your phone and use it
Mm.
completely. Just like one thing that entrepreneurship has taught me is that everything is connected, right?
Mhm.
Everything is connected, and not just within a business, but then externally. So I'll give you an example. Our dev team that I have been working with for 4 years was based in the Ukraine. In 2022, Russia invaded the Ukraine, and stuff that was going on there had a domino effect to like my
Mhm.
user experience, and so I learned a lot from hardships, and yeah, just everything is connected. And I just saw an opportunity for us to try to be a step ahead, and just this is also my thought process of being preventative, and not not just reactive to things. Like, how can I prevent certain things from happening again that negatively impact our users, and have a checklist of things to do differently. And one of those things is release a web version of your product.
Love that. I love how you are already having a plan for your future where you're also working smarter, which is really great. So that's really impressive. You have been recognized by Forbes and other esteemed platforms, which is incredible. How do you leverage these opportunities to further elevate the voices of women-owned businesses?
Yeah, I would say I go in the conversation thinking about them. Sometimes people they get so excited about media features or awards that like it's me, right? And I mean, I feel you have your moment, you worked hard for that, right? But you want to bring as much attention to your mission and what you're doing and who you're serving as possible. Like if you have an opportunity to be on national TV or do a podcast or speak with the blog, whatever it is. If you have an opportunity to spread the word about what your business is doing and the impact it's having, and if you make it all about you, you have fumbled.
Mm-hmm.
You've absolutely fumbled. And I think that one thing that I try to lead with is that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. And I think with that mindset, it makes you approach certain situations and certain opportunities differently. So back in, I think this was 2019, I want to say 2020, had an opportunity to participate in the United States Startup Congressional Day. And that's where like the White House, they pick entrepreneurs from every state to go speak to congressmen of their state. And I was so excited about it. And I remember thinking, similar to with, being invited to the Be Good event in Houston, my first thought is, how can I leverage this as an opportunity to create opportunity or to create change for the audience I serve? So I wasn't there when I was talking to the congressman of Nebraska where I lived at the time. I wasn't there to talk about her headquarters. I was there to create change for women-owned businesses. So I proposed an act where it would make it easier for women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses to get access to the funds that they needed to start their businesses. And I was so excited about it because, like, I didn't go into it thinking like I'm going to tell him about all the great things they're doing. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to tell you what you can do better to help the women-owned businesses. And I looked at myself. Granted, I don't speak for everyone, but I looked at myself as an ambassador of minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. That's how I look at every opportunity, especially if it's a room that very few people get in. I felt like it's an opportunity and also somewhat of an obligation to speak for the people who maybe cannot get into that room.
Okay, so I'm just curious to know, because I personally have been in a lot of spaces where I am the only one in the room that is Black, and a Black female for one thing. And I kind of just want to know if you've ever felt that same discomfort where you're in a room surrounded by those who are not POCs, and it just kind of feels like you're out of place. Has that ever happened to you where you feel uncomfortable or?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, in the Midwest. So I'm not used to being, if not the only person of color in the room, the only Black woman in the room. And I got tired of it. I left Omaha, Nebraska in November of 2022, and I moved to Houston, and it is a day and night difference. I absolutely love it. But one thing that really kind of was like a rude awakening for me, I'd always lived in Omaha. I went to an event in Atlanta earlier that year. I was a guest speaker. And when I was there, it was about 75 to like 85 attendees. And every single woman there was a woman of color. I had never experienced that, with the exception of like, a family barbecue or something, but as far as like a public event, I had never experienced that. And it was the norm for them. And I remember like craving that. Like I was like, I had never experienced being somewhere to where everyone looks like me and it was professional. And it was, it made me think like, I wonder if the people who have this all the time, I wonder if they realize that other people don't have that and if they take that for granted. Because when I had to go back to Omaha, Nebraska and being at another event a week later, and I'm like one or two Black people in the room, out of 40 people,
Mm-hmm.
I started to hate it. I think I got so tired of the room looking like that
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of became disengaged, especially when I knew that other rooms existed, like the one that I saw in Atlanta. So I never felt that I didn't belong somewhere, but I have always felt, at least in the Midwest, like uncomfortable. And I just kind of got tired of that being my experience. And being now in Houston, like I said, it's completely different. And it's not that I'm in a room full of Black people, but I'm in a room full of people of color,
Right.
and it's a lot more diverse here. I don't see panels of just all one people, all white people, and then the token Black person, because we got to have somebody up there that's brown, like. And I also heard things like that before. Like I was a part of an accelerator program, and I remember a decision maker, making a comment to me saying like, "Hey, do you have any Hispanic people that you can recommend that we can just get into the program?" Because, basically they were trying to hit their quota.
Oh my
And
God.
so they were basically kind of implying to me like, whoever you recommend, they're going to get in by default just because they're Hispanic, because they're trying to not make it all white. And I just
Right.
thought, if that's the only thing that you're looking for in someone, then you're not even going to even fully appreciate the beauty of their business and the
Right.
problem that they're solving and the impact that they can have, because you are just trying to check a box.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
I saw recently, I think it was yesterday maybe, that there was an award, entrepreneurial award next year, and most of the applicants who were awarded last year were not POCs, or most of them were white blonde women, to be honest. And I saw this year that a lot of the winners, who, I guess there were maybe like two or three winners who are Black, and they decided not to apply this year for the awards because of feeling like it was that they were tokens, that they
Right.
were only there because they're Black, and
You
because
need a
they
quota.
had
Right.
to have at least three or some, or whatever, to be on stage, or to show more faces. But that they were like making taking a stand, so that this year they didn't apply at all for the awards, because they were like, this isn't really an award, it's more just for the company to feel or to seem they are diverse, and that was a big blow to them.
Yeah.
That sucks. It really just kills me how this is still happening to this day, but whatever, that's just what we have to deal with. Okay, as a public speaker, you share your journey. How do you balance vulnerability with empowerment when speaking on stages across the country?
I think vulnerability is empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that so many people feel like they have to wear a mask, right? They have to hide something. Because they felt inadequate, or but I didn't finish college, or I didn't go to college, or I didn't do this, or I don't know this. It kind of holds them back a little bit from feeling like they can do the great things they've been called to do. And so I think that vulnerability is a superpower,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it's a superpower that, one, allows people to connect with you and your business outside of the brand and the product and the service and the colors, right? They can see a human in it. That's the value of vulnerability. They recognize that there is a human behind the brand, number one. Number two, it creates authentic connection, and it also gives people the opportunity to see some of themselves in you, and they feel like, what, maybe I'm not where this person is, but because they shared this story, I connected with them in a way to where now I feel like I can do this too. And I'll be really honest with you, like, being vulnerable was easy for me. I think one thing that's hard for me is figuring out what not to share. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll tell you everything. Like, if we had a long enough podcast, girl, I can walk you through some things. So I'm being vulnerable is very easy for me. I think that I love it. I'll give you an example. I was seeing something online a couple weeks ago, and this woman, her business is so successful and they're doing so good. And I don't even know her personally, but I'm like so proud of her, right? And then there was a little part of me that crept in. I thought, well, why isn't your business at that stage yet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you thinking to myself, what are you doing wrong? You know, maybe you're not consistent enough on social media, or maybe you're not networking enough, maybe you're not this, and this. And she happened to share a video or like a post, like maybe a few hours after I was kind of thinking those things about myself. And, you know, she basically reminded people like, I started my business 10 years ago. And, you know, it's like, I remember when I got this contract, and, you know, basically she made a decision to do something, and it ended up, not only did it not work out, but it cost her business $2 million.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, okay. And I wasn't happy to hear that, but
Right.
it made me feel like I wasn't alone. Like,
Right.
okay, like, you know, you got a $200,000 investment once, and you thought this was going to be the best year ever, and it was the worst year ever, right? Like,
Right.
it was the worst. And I remember being so embarrassed and so afraid to tell my investors, like, I thought I was doing everything right. I thought this was the smart decision, and this is the right pace, and this is the right thing. And so, and thankfully my investors were like, girl, we signed up to take a journey with you. We
Mm.
bet on you during hard times. We bet on you during great times. And we know that your company is going to be successful. And right now, we're just kind of, you know, a couple bumps here and there. It ain't hurt nobody, you know. But like when she said, yo, we did this and we did this and we lost $2 million, I thought, oh, okay. At every scale, you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
At every scale, you're learning and you're doing something for most people at the first time with no manual. So I thought, okay. And it made me feel so much better about me.
Yeah.
And I also remember like you were in year 4. She's on in year 9 going to you know to year 10.
Right.
Like if these are the mistakes you've learned in 4 years, imagine the sacrifices and the mistakes that she's made in 9. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, don't compare. Just be happy for her, and you're gonna catch up. And even then, when you catch up to her, she might be still 5 years ahead of you, but then she can guide you on how
Mm-hmm.
to get, you know what I mean? So like we get to teach each other. And I just think that vulnerability gives people the courage to keep going. It gives people the courage to be themselves. It gives people the courage, and if they feel that they need it, it gives them the permission to be honest with themselves too.
Mm-hmm. That's so real and so needed. I personally am always in this like comparison phase too. At times when I'm in year 2 of my company, and my friends who are in year 5 or 7 who are doing so great, I'm like, but then I have to think, yes, because they're in year 5 and 7. That's why, it's because they have done what I've done and they're still going because they didn't give up. They pushed through the next 3 to every year they're up to. So I know
Right.
that it's I'm not doing that. I'm just early and I'm still able to, learn from them. So it's not the state of comparing is really what is holding us back at times because we always feel like we're not good enough, but you have to keep pushing through to get to where they are.
Right. And one more thing to note is that granted, everyone starts in chapter 1, right?
Yeah.
Day 1. Everyone's chapter 1 and day 1 does not look the same though. We all
Right.
start on chapter 1, but my chapter 1 might have connections that can accelerate my growth that your chapter 1 doesn't, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
your chapter 1 might have, you know, a family investment that can give you $50,000 to jumpstart your business, whereas the next person's chapter 1 is like blood, sweat, and tears. They're pulling double shifts
Right.
to pay for their business website. And it's not knocking where anyone starts, but it is important for people to know, like, yeah, don't compare where you are to other people. But even if you acknowledge that we all start on day 1, everyone's day 1 comes with a different package.
Exactly.
So that's a whole nother reason why like we got to learn to give ourselves grace, because we're all doing the best that we can with what we have and with what we know.
Amen. So bonus question is when was the last time that you felt fearless? A time when you were afraid, but you did anyway, aside from the other ones you already mentioned, like being on stage for the Be Good, other things that have been frightening for you, but you pushed through, and then how did it turn out?
Yeah. Hmm.
You gotta think now.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, this example, and then you're like, nope, nope, give me something
Something
fresh.
different.
The last time you said I felt afraid
Yeah.
and I pushed through.
Yes. Your fearless moment.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, very recently, there's two companies. You know what? I'm gonna say their name. I Fund Women,
Oh, yeah.
based in New York City, and Hello Alice are two companies that I would love to work with. And I sent emails to their teams recently, and no, specifically the CEOs. I reached out to them personally. And the reason why that was scary for me is because I know that they are companies that are further ahead than us. I saw a lot of similarities as far as we speak the same love language and supporting, at least with iPhone Women, supporting women-owned businesses, and with Hello Alice, just supporting businesses.
Mhm.
Um, but I felt a little bit nervous because I was afraid of, like, what if they just see me as, or see her headquarters as, oh, it's just this little small company, or,
Mm.
this little startup, and, see us as the underdog. I was worried about them seeing us as small and not seeing us for what we've done and what we've accomplished and the impact that we can have together, to where they discredit us and then immediately, like, I'm not responding to them. And granted, they have not responded yet. However, I'm not going to say that that's why. People are busy. I followed up. I haven't gotten a response yet, but I will say putting myself out there is scary every single time.
Yeah.
I do it. And some days I'd be so nervous. I'll, like, type the email, hit send, and close my laptop. And I'm
Run
like,
away.
whew,
So like, you run
whew.
away.
Yeah, like, take a deep breath, like, dang, that was scary. And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't let it cripple me, but it is something that I fear. Um, because there is a such thing as people underestimating you or your company and then not giving you a chance, or there are people out there or companies out there that will only rock with you if they see someone else popular rocking with you.
Mm.
And not wanting to be, like, subject to that, but also acknowledging that I can't control that. The only thing I can control is how I shoot my shot and win. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I sure did. I sent those emails and hit send and closed my laptop and took a deep breath, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. So
Good for you.
yeah, that's some everyday scary stuff that I'd be feeling.
Love that. Love it. Is there any advice for the audience for you to share for those who are entrepreneurs or those who are trying to expand their business or whatever you want to give out there today?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much advice I could give. I will say, never stop talking to your customers.
Mm.
Um, and before you even, if you're at the stage where you haven't started a business yet and you're thinking about it and you're kind of getting your game plan together, I will say the only thing worse than a business that has failed, and failed is means whatever it does, whatever it means to you. The only thing worse than a failed business is a business that did not succeed and you do not get your time and your money back that you've invested.
Mm.
So I always say to people, if your business is going to, quote, fail, wouldn't you rather know 30 days in than 2 years in? And the best way to find out if it's not going to work is to do focus groups. Talk to your prospective client or your prospective customer and ask them, how painful is the problem that you're going to solve to them? Because the degree of the pain will determine the degree of their need for what you're doing and how much you're willing to pay for it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we get done with this conversation. I'm like, yo, your girl is hungry. I really want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I go to the pantry. We got peanut butter. We got bread. We don't have no jelly. Do I have a problem? We absolutely have a problem. But am I willing to spend $30 a month on a subscription for a company that will bring me jelly at any drop of a dime anywhere in the country? No, it's not a big enough problem. But I do have a problem, right?
Mhm.
Um, those are questions that you want to ask, like, what problem are you experiencing? How often do you experience this problem? And what are you willing to pay for that problem to be solved?
Mm.
And then if I solve this problem for you, what type of experience are you expecting for the amount of money you're going to spend? Those, I lost count, 4 to 5 questions that I just gave you, like, the sneak peek on, that can give you a lot of insight on if you should start this business and or how you should structure this business. That's number one. And number two, when you do have a business, never stop talking to your customers. Don't ever get so big that you become detached from the people that you serve. Because when I talk to users of HerHeadquarters, when I talk to women owned businesses, that is a highlight of my day, even if I don't do it every day. And some of the rawest feedback that I've gotten of like, yo, I don't like your price point, or I don't like the product, or this was really easy, but I really have this great idea. And I'm like, whoa, I never thought of that. The most amazing insight that changed the trajectory of my business came from talking to my customers. Never stop doing that. Even if you just do it quarterly, you just do focus groups, and I'm saying if you get to the point where you have a big team and, a growing business and, you're delegating all that stuff, even when you get to that point, at least like quarterly, do focus groups and just, hey, what do you love about our product? And if you were to stop using us, if you were to stop using my service or my product and go to the next person, why would you leave us? It gives you the opportunity to be proactive in saving them and the other customers who think like them. I'm telling you, like, customers will put you on game.
That was
never
amazing
stop
advice.
talking to them.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much. And then lastly, how can our audience find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Carina Glover. You can go to herheadquarters.app. Her headquarters with an S at the end, .app. If you're interested in working with us as a corporate client and receiving our vendor on demand services where we recruit, vet, and hire women-owned businesses for you, you can go to our website. If you're interested in getting certified as a woman-owned business, you can go to our website or our platform. Again, go on our website. It's herheadquarters.app, and you can explore all three avenues that we can work with you. And on Instagram, and we finally got a TikTok, y'all, on her HerHeadquarters. So yeah, we're around.
Thank you for joining me, Carina. You have been amazing. I had so much fun talking to you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having
me. And that is a wrap. Fearless Narratives airs every Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. Thank you for joining us today. You have been an amazing audience, and we really love your support. So we also would love for you to give us a nice 5-star review. And until next time, stay fearless.